The earthquake hit at 2:46 p.m. But what came after was worse. Imagine sitting in your car. The shaking stops, and you think it's over, until the street outside your window suddenly disappears beneath a black wall of water. That's exactly what happened to one man in Japan during the 2011 tsunami. What follows is a true survival story of fear, instinct, and impossible odds. Chapter 1. The morning shift Hiroshi Abashi had just clocked out of the fish market in Shiogama, Miyagi Prefecture. It was March 11th, 2011. A regular day. It's cold air, the smell of the sea, and a plan to bring home tempura for dinner. He'd worked the graveyard shift and was looking forward to an early nap. He slipped into his pale green Toyota Vitz, started the engine, and called his wife Yumi. "I'll be home in 30 minutes, he said. She told him to drive safely. Neither of them knew those might be their last words. Chapter 2. The earthquake at 2:46 p.m. The ground began to shake. Hiroshi was helping unload a crate of frozen mackerel. When the warehouse floor rolled beneath him like waves on a lake, steel beams groaned. Boxes fell. Lights swung from the ceiling. He ducked under a metal workbench. As everyone began yelling, the quake didn't stop. It went on for 6 minutes. 6 terrifying minutes. Outside, telephone poles buckled, sidewalks cracked, and people poured into the streets. A voice on the warehouse intercom shouted, "Magnitude 9, Pacific Coast, tsunami warning issued." His co-workers ran for the designated evacuation point to a nearby hill, but Hiroshi didn't follow. He bolted toward his car. He had to get to Yumi. Chapter 3. The warning signs by 2:55 p.m., sirens were blaring across town. Public broadcasts warned people to evacuate immediately. Traffic choked the main roads. Hiroshi gripped the wheel tightly, trying to weave between lanes, his eyes flicking from the road to the dashboard clock. 3:02 p.m. He was stuck behind a delivery truck. HK emergency coverage played on his phone mounted to the dash. Red alert flashed for Miyagi Prefecture. Tsunami expected. 10 meters or higher. He was less than 300 meters from the coast. Then he saw it. The ocean had disappeared. Where there had once been water, there was now exposed seafloor, muddy and wide. Hiroshi had lived in Miyagi his whole life. He knew what that meant. The ocean was coming back. Chapter 4. Impact at 3:10 p.m. The tsunami hit. It wasn't a wave, it was a wall. 10 meters high. Dark, violent, and fast. Hiroshi saw it coming in his rearview mirror. In seconds, it slammed into the town. Cars floated. Houses snapped. Trees bent like twigs. His Vitz was lifted like a toy and thrown sideways into a parked delivery truck. The windows shattered. Water poured in through the air vents and under the doors. He tried the door. It wouldn't open. The pressure outside was too strong. Within a minute, the car was completely submerged. Chapter 5. Underwater, Hiroshi fought to stay calm. He knew he had only seconds before he'd black out. The water was ice cold. His seatbelt was stuck. He unlatched it with one trembling hand and tried to roll down the window, but the electric controls were dead. He reached behind his seat for the emergency hammer he always kept, but it had come loose and floated somewhere in the dark. Gasping, he used the metal headrest to slam the window. Once, twice, a crack appeared. On the fourth hit, the glass gave way. Water rushed in completely, and Hiroshi was sucked out through the side, barely managing to grab a floating cushion for air. Chapter 6. The whirlpool outside the car. It was chaos. He was inside a whirlpool of cars, tires, broken walls, and pieces of homes. He clung to the cushion, his head above water for just seconds at a time. Each breath felt stolen. He tried to swim, but the current kept pulling him back. A van rolled past him, smashing into a tree. A propane tank floated by, then exploded in the distance. It felt like hours, but only 10 minutes had passed. Chapter 7. The building Hiroshi saw, a 2-story apartment building partially submerged. He kicked toward it with the last of his strength. Floating refrigerator wedged against the balcony gave him a boost. Climbed onto it, then grabbed a drainage pipe to pull himself up. His hand slipped, tearing open his palm. Blood mixed with the seawater, but he kept climbing. Finally, he reached the second-floor balcony. The door was locked. He smashed a window with his bleeding hand and crawled inside. He was safe for now. Chapter 8. The fires from the balcony. Hiroshi saw something terrifying. Fires. Dozens of them. Floating cars had ignited. Kesanuma's fuel depot had exploded. Now the town was a hellscape of water and flame. He stayed in the building for hours, shivering, injured, and soaked. Aftershocks shook the walls. Didn't know if the building would collapse. He had no phone, no food. No idea if Yumi was alive. Chapter 9. The rescue at dawn. The next day he heard it. A helicopter. He waved his jacket from the balcony. The pilot saw him. Minutes later, a rope was lowered. He was pulled up into the sky, the town a brown and black wasteland below. At the hospital, they stitched his hand and gave him dry clothes. He was among the lucky ones. Chapter 12. The weight of survival in the months following the tsunami. Hiroshi struggled not just with what he had lost, but with what he had kept. His life. Survivor's guilt came quietly at first. At night, he would wake up gasping, swearing he was back inside the Vits, drowning. Some mornings Yumi found him sleepwalking, standing near the window, staring at the hills, muttering, "Get out. Get out of the car." He visited the remains of their home in Shiogama in late April, almost 2 months after the wave. Or rather, where their home had been. The house was gone, flattened. In its place stood a tilted foundation and a twisted frame of plumbing pipes poking up like bones from the dirt. In the corner of what used to be their living room, Hiroshi found something half buried. A tea mug, Yumi's favorite one. The paint was chipped, but the red sakura print was still visible. He sank to his knees and wept for the first time since that day. At the shelter, food was scarce. Families huddled under donated blankets. At night, someone always cried, quietly, respectfully, but it was constant. Children asked why their fathers hadn't come back. Elderly couples sat for hours, staring at their hands. The gym's fluorescent lights never turned off. Hiroshi began volunteering to clean toilets and hand out supplies. He couldn't sit still. He couldn't sleep. Felt like he had to earn the fact that he was still breathing. One day, an old woman clasped his wrist as he passed her a bowl of miso. "You have tsunami eyes," she whispered. He didn't know what she meant until he looked in a mirror a week later. His eyes looked empty. There, but far away. Like the sea had taken part of him too. Yumi never pressured him. She had lost her brother in Onagawa, swept away trying to help evacuate a hospital. Her grief was quiet, folded inside her. She cooked rice whenever they could afford it and smiled for the children in the shelter even when her hands shook. Sometimes they held each other in silence for hours. Sometimes that was all they could do. Chapter 10. Reunion 3 days later. While sitting in a crowded gym converted into a shelter, someone called his name. It was Yumi. She had evacuated to a school on higher ground. They embraced for what felt like hours, both crying, surrounded by strangers who had lost everything. Chapter 11. The aftermath. Hiroshi and Yumi lived in temporary housing for over a year. Their house, car, and belongings were all gone. But they were alive. He now volunteers with Japan's Disaster Readiness Agency. Every time the sirens go off, he speaks at schools and tells children, "Don't wait, don't run to your car. Don't think it's not serious. Run, up." But he keeps that cracked headrest on his desk as a reminder of how close he came to death and how he escaped it. Thank you for listening to this powerful true story of survival. If this inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life disaster stories and simulations. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss our next video. Stay safe, be prepared, and never underestimate nature.